So the idea of Walden in this class, and the reason I've got it in I don't know, 3 or 4 different formats on the course website, is it's up there in a bunch of different formats so that you can get through that according to your learning style. Walden is not uh, popular literature of 2020. It's a product of its time, and it's a little bit hard for some folks to read if you don't really sort of like sort of the mid 1800s style of public dialogue. So Walden was written by this guy Henry David Thoreau, and the idea was to um, basically take the ancient idea of being a hermit or an ascetic, so somebody who intentionally lives way below their means, kind of in a very primitive way, um, and taking that experience and then packaging it for, in his time, the people of Boston and New York, because folks would literally gather on street corners and just like debate about stuff, um, kind of in a bit of an informal revival of like the ancient Greek tradition of like discourse and debates and philosophies, like jets versus sharks, um, fighting each other like Epicurean is better. No, Stoicism is better. Like fight, fight. No. Um, so the idea of Walden tying into this class is that that particular experience served as kind of the public catalyst. So those debates, the lecture series that he gave after writing it, just telling people, hey, yeah, I went out and lived in this little one room cabin for a while, and I really reconnected with what life really is all about instead of living this sort of quietly sad and scared, boxed up in a city environment kind of life. Um, and so that by the late 1800s had kind of jumped into the American discourse, the American conversation of our cities are growing rapidly. Um, we're about to get into sort of the muckraker era of journalism where, like kids are getting sucked into machines in factories to make you a cheaper pair of leather shoes um, and stuff like that, right? So the idea of wilderness before it could become a formally like federally designated protected thing started with this conversation of, oh, well, maybe our relentless march of technology is great for convenience, but it's also kind of neutering us. It's making us soft and weak and ineffectual in our own eyes and in the eyes of other people. Maybe our conquering of the wildlands is manifest destiny, which is like still hugely a thing in Thoreau's day in the mid 1800s, as we were trying to connect the two coasts by railroads. There was no highway system back then. Like there were still wildlands. The frontier wasn't closed until 1890. So the basic idea is that he kind of put the bug in people's ear of maybe we don't want to fix everything. Maybe we don't want to like groom everything. We don't want to pave everything. We don't want to make all of the forests into farmland, and housing developments would be the modern equivalent. Strip malls, as I often say in wilderness management. So that's the basic sense of it. Like we didn't know we had a problem until Thoreau and others like him, the Transcendentalists, were a group of authors and poets kind of along this line, kind of romanticized the kind of glorified nature, saying, "Hey, this is noble. This is the ideal, not just your bank balance, not just the niceness of the clothes you wear. Like they're fine. You need clothes, but are you really going to spend your life, spend your strength on getting more clothes? Like when you get to the end of your life and you look back on it, you're going to be pleased with that." Um, and so, every generation we get sort of another call to this idea of test yourself a little bit more, do things that are hard on purpose. Um, there is strength in the savage and wild, and there is beauty, and there's also, according to the decade that you pick up the conversation, there's also healing and reconnecting with your own spirit and God, however you understand he, her, or him, or it, or they to be, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole wilderness conversation starts with Walden.